these fools to the Uso penitentiary. Okay, all right. Hey, let's get it, Uso. You already know. As soon as you feel that creep, you about to get put to sleep. Uso! Yeah. Let's go, Uso. Down six. Day one-ish, yeah, down six. Day one-ish, we've been down six. Day one-ish, yeah, light them all up, knock them down like this.
Oh shit, music turned off. Welcome back to a evening special of the Ministry. Yes, the Ministry of Truth. I am your number one host on this show. Little slow because I typically don't want to go late this afternoon in the evening. But I was watching a press conference and we're going to talk about democracy and what is considered democracy in the United States, as well as how Chicago is all about democracy as well as freedom of speech. So we're going to get into a story about Brandon Johnson talking about the Board of Education in the city of Chicago, Springfield to be more precise, and how he alone can change it to where he can overrun democracy. And well, we've seen this before with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Democracy is a joke. Voters don't matter as long as your mayor is given that privilege of making all the decisions. Feel me? All right. But I do want to get into a few things about this specific news conference. So there was a beginning to where protesters actually came out, were talking shit. Let me find the long one. Here we go. Talking shit about Brandon Johnson before calling him the board illegitimate. Now, this is the beginning of his speech, and you're going to notice something.
Yo, do me
on the screen. Now, listen to the first couple seconds of this.
a favor. Y'all give it up for our host, Bishop Trotter, one more time. What he was really trying to communicate is that he's been pastoring about as long as I've been live. And so,
You hear that?
to communicate about as long as I've been live. And so,
The second the heckler started talking bad about Brandon Johnson, the Fox, is this Fox? Fox 32 in Chicago censored. But wait. What about this channel? ABC 7 Chicago. Well,
and the transition.
they didn't even play the beginning of the speech. They just cut straight to this. Okay. And then we have CBS Chicago. And let's see how they handled this situation, considering they had the press conference live an hour before it started.
What he was really trying to communicate is that he's been pastoring about as long as I've been live. So,
And then it went silent. I mean, if there's nothing to hide, why are you censoring your own constituents as well as reporters, as you're going to see later on in this? Yeah, I went through 4 different videos and I ended up catching that. I was like, wait a second, they're censoring this. And then I went onto Twitter to try to find it and I still couldn't find it. So we're going to listen to what's left of the speech, and there's more heckling, and this dude gets super pissed at the reporters in this, and he makes everything about race. Brandon Johnson, all about race. Brandon Johnson is also a former member of Antifa, Well, I'm thinking he's still a current member, but the way he's going to run his city so far, the way it sounds far from anything democratic, according to the liberals. Still censored. It'll come back. They tried to catch and look, it's not white protesters. He can't say racism for this. Look at these protesters. Black woman, black woman, black man, black man, black woman. They're saying illegitimate. Look how long this goes on. And you can't hear a single word they're saying. Why? Why censor this local news?
Not legit. Not legit. Not.
I want to thank the outgoing members of the Chicago Board of Education and the transition plan that we have built together. I'm proud of all of the work that we have been able to do in partnership, including shifting away from the inequitable student-based budgeting, completing the change to a school safety model that doesn't rely upon school resource officers, but it focuses on the success of our Black students in particular. Our collaborative work also improves special education services.
I love voters.
I will just say, as I finish my comments, the most legitimate existence of anyone in this country
So if you
is the
notice,
legitimate existence.
they actually muted the protester. You can still hear him in the background, but they just specifically made it to where you can only hear him on the recording.
Of a black man
Better listen.
is the legitimate existence of a black man.
Oh,
Now, I understand that there are individuals that wish to use this as a political opportunity to sow seeds of doubt. But make no mistake about it, I am going to stand firm and flat-foot to ensure that our students get what they deserve.
okay.
Because,
How so?
just for the record, I was legitimate when I took an arrest against other administrations when they were closing down black schools. I was also legitimate when I went down to Springfield to fight for a fully elected school board.
Stop prosecuting people for protesting the genocide. It was right to shut down the DNC.
Get him out of here. Right.
Spice of protest genocide. It was right to protest the DNC. Stop supporting Hitler Kamala. Stop prosecuting people.
You know,
Shut up, Brandon. This guy wants to put $300 million into education to pay for teachers and unions that obviously aren't getting the job done. Because when you look at things like this, and this is from Illinois, the graduation and post-secondary enrollment rates in Chicago were below the standard average in 2022. Reading and math SAT scores were also below the Illinois average. Other large districts in Cook and the Collier counties performed better. So that's Chicago's Board of Education.
again here, I also just want to just acknowledge the fact that since I've been in this position of authority,
Exactly, Zip.
So as you can tell, that they clearly expect a black man to do everything in less than 2 years.
Do for your people. Right.
But I will say this, though. I do appreciate the energy. I do. Because I do know that if things were still, it would mean that we are moving in status quo. But the fact that things are moving and shifting, it means I'm doing exactly what I was elected to do.
Not if it's going in the wrong direction. You notice he kicked out
And we've done
anybody that said anything against him so far. Just wait till the reporters get their hack at him.
it in a very short period of time with the previous board, collaborating to improve special education services, increasing accountability for the renewal process for charter schools, establishing and embarking upon a 5-year strategic plan that neighborhood schools will be prioritized, that sustainable community schools is the model in lieu of school closures. I have no doubt that the new board will continue and
It's also the same mayor that was closing down high schools to house migrants. Did you forget about that, Brandon? You put migrants above children's education. And now you want to hire a bunch of your friends so they can get part of that $300 million.
build on the progress using the 5-year strategic plan as we guide and collaborate with stakeholders, community partners, to bring about the transformation that this city deserves. And I'm proud to announce that we have our first iteration of my recommendations to be on this board and be a part of this transformation. That's Olga Batista, Michaela Blaze, Mary Gardner, Reverend Mitchell Johnson, Debbie Pope,
Recommendations.
Frank Thomas. I'm confident that these new candidates will work to lead CPS into the world-class school system that our children deserve.
Their elections in November, they don't take that role until January for the school board. So what this motherfucker's going to do is he's going to appoint, because that's what the mayor's allowed to do, is appoint people to the school board instead of wait until November. So this next 30 days, he can have people in his position to vote for what he wants before they get voted out of the office because they were appointed. Smart, right?
This group is the first step of more nominations that will ensure a smooth transition into a hybrid board, of which I'm the only mayor in the history of Chicago that fought for an elected school board and kept his promise to ensure that a school board would happen.
But you're appointed. They're not elected.
And I will continue to nominate Chicagoans who are dedicated to meeting the needs of our students, who are deeply rooted in their communities and represent the diverse constituencies who actually send their children to the Chicago public schools. Because, oh, by the way, I'm the first mayor in the history of Chicago to do just that as well, sending my children to the school district right here in Chicago.
No, you send your kids to public school or private schools.
When I ran for
stupid
mayor, I
bitch.
promised to transform our public education system. I'm a man of my word. And that means bold leadership in a moment that doesn't nibble around the edges and look for incremental gain. Our people in this city are tired of political leaders that want the status quo to nibble around the edges, and then when children don't get what they deserve, they blame the very communities that they've disinvested in. Not on my watch.
Have you checked the mirror lately, Brandon?
Status quo, the past mistakes that have left our students behind, we're not doing that. And then the so-called experts, the so-called fiscally responsible stewards are making the same argument when our people wanted to be liberated and emancipated in this country.
Oh,
the
for
argument
fuck's
was you can't free black people because it would be too expensive.
You better listen. Come on.
They said that it would be fiscally irresponsible for this country to liberate black people. And now you have detractors making the same argument of the Confederacy when it comes to public education in this system.
How so? Give me the example.
These are the people who package these gimmicks, lied to our people, stole money from our people, refused to pay into the pension system.
Who exactly stole money from your people? Who are your people? I'm curious. Your cronies? Because this 300 million, I doubt it goes to the schools, to their education. It's going to go to the 9 people he's about to appoint.
Left the taxpayers with the bill and for me to fix it.
You better listen.
But we're going to build a world-class school district, you all. Because the vision of the status quo is to leave our children behind. Fire teachers assistants, fire custodial workers, fire nurses. That is their vision.
Teachers don't want to work because they don't want to mess with badass kids that today's society is producing. They don't. They don't get paid enough. But when you try to put more money into a system that's already broke and it's not going to fix anything, damn, that's sad. But anyway.
My vision is about building a system that works for everyone. Imagine our schools down a pathway of new discovery where you don't have to have senseless cuts and real disruption and chaos. You can actually have a school district that doesn't embrace mass layoffs, massive school closings, austerity. 1,100 black students are still missing from 2013. This district did not find those children when the schools were closed. That fiscally irresponsible decision have left decades and tears of destruction, and that ends.
You can't blame Republicans for that if that's what you're trying to do. Maybe racism? I don't know. Check the governors for the last 50 years in Chicago, or the mayors.
Now, I am the only mayor who has taken an arrest, who's lobbied legislators, who marched and organized for more investment for our children. The city leaders have long resisted investing in our children. I am no longer going to accept the status quo. We believe that we can have a world-class system that not only creates sustainable community schools, but a system that embraces the arts, that embraces the trades, that makes sure that our children can participate in sports. We have schools right now who do not have dollars for buses to take their kids to sporting events. We have a system right now
Whose fault is
can't
that?
adequately bus children to the very spaces that they say I believe in. And so that ends. I was elected to fight, and fight I am. Thank you all. My deputy mayor, Jen Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. On fire. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Deputy Mayor Jen Johnson. I am the Deputy Mayor of Education, Youth, and Human Services. Again, I would like to thank the current board members for their service this past year. We appreciate their time and effort.
Our schools and
Okay, I do want to just thank again all of the faith leaders, community leaders that are here, and again, the outgoing board for their dedication. And I'm looking forward to
I
working.
mean, the outgoing board that quit because of you trying to fucking get into the CEO and get him fired, and they were like, no, fuck you. So now you want to appoint your own people.
with members of the new board and the hybrid board moving forward. And with that, we'll take questions.
Mayor, thank you so much. A couple of clarifications. I'm trying not to make this too long,
There's
but
fun.
will
Comes the fun.
they stay? Because you still will be appointing 11 members. It isn't a totally elected school board. So when you all say that there was going to be a transition anyway, there was always going to be those appointed. That meant the 7 current, many thought were staying. So it's not exactly accurate to say everybody was leaving until all this happened last week. To add to that, who vetted these candidates? Are they endorsed by the CTU? Were they asked ahead of time? Was this...
Bro, you got to give it to these fucking journalists. I wish there was more like them.
Was this a deal breaker? Were they asked, would they fire CEO Martinez and agree to the $300 million
Well, let's
loan.
start with your first narration. The current members of the board that are now resigning had no intentions on staying. That's why they didn't run to seek office.
That's not true.
So that
But you still appoint 11. It's not a totally elected board. So would they have stayed? I'm just trying to find out.
I know, and I'm answering it. Okay. The 7 members who are resigning never intended to stay. So I just want to make sure that's absolutely clear. They always knew what
Did you
their
force
assignment
them out?
was. And just, again, since we are offering up clarification, last July, 6 board members resigned. 6 of them.
Why?
And I hope you can draw this very simple conclusion here. This
Why?
is not the first time the number of resignations that we are seeing taking place. 6 members resigned. I replaced 6 back in July. And in this instance, 7 members decided to resign. And I accepted their resignation. As far as members who will transition in during this period, there could be scenarios in which some members are able to remain. It really depends on the outcome of the election.
Would you talk further about those other questions that I asked? Are they endorsed by
No,
the
listen, none of these individuals up here.
How are they vetted?
That's a good question.
None of these individuals up here at this point are, I guess with the exception of one, one person is currently running. As far as
How
who
are they
they've been
vetted?
endorsed by, you have to ask those individuals. As far as your other questions of what they were asked to do, they were asked to carry out the vision of public education, the one that I ran on, the one that's in my transition report, the one
How
that's
are
in
they
this
vetted?
transition 5-year plan. They were asked to carry that vision out. Thank you very much.
Could I thought I had
I
a
mean,
follow-up.
there were 5 questions there.
How were they vetted? Because you know the mayor of Dalton hired a fucking sex offender. How are these 11 people vetted? Were they vetted? I bet you they weren't.
Which one are you following up to? Question number 1, 2, 3,
I
4,
have a-
5. If there's time, Mary Ann, we could talk later, but you're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to clarify, are these candidates endorsed by the CTU?
You have to ask those individuals. I have not endorsed any of these individuals up here in terms of their sort of political aspirations. What's being carried out right now is my authority as mayor of the city of Chicago.
If that's the most authoritarian, not the most authoritarian or socialist thing I've never heard of, I don't know. You're basically saying I have the power to put anybody in that position, democratically or undemocratically.
You want to know this, I am fulfilling the executive responsibility that is given to me by the state law. If you want to find out who CTU is endorsing, go ask the CTU. I'm not the CTU. I'm the mayor of the greatest freaking city in the world, the city of Chicago. Do you have a follow-up?
Show of hands. Is Chicago the greatest city in the world? That's what I thought.
Respectfully,
Do you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up. Thank you. We see that one of them appears to be employed by CTU. Are you able to confirm that?
Yep.
Debbie Pope? Is that correct?
She doesn't work for the CTU. Thank you very much. Next person.
Mayor, regardless of that, perhaps
There's a reason she asked it. Johnson.
we can ask and poll the appointees up here if they have been endorsed by the CTU. That might clarify things right here for us
So
all.
Reverend
Could we do
Mitchell,
that?
I'm going to help you. Reverend Mitchell Johnson is not running. Mary Gardner is not running. Ms. Blaze is not running. Is Olga running? Olga is not running. Who else did I miss?
You're admitting they're not running. You're appointing people that are not running. How do you not see that?
So no one's running. None of them. Wait, oh, come on, you all. Just settle down. Craig has the mic. So no one on here on the stage right now, none of them are running.
So why are you
To
hiring?
the outside world, this kind of does look like, because the CTU was your biggest backer, to some it may look like a coup by the CTU to get rid of the board members who would not do your bidding and fire Pedro Martinez. Can you respond to that?
What's the question?
The question
He asked
is,
you to respond to it.
this is looks like a coup by the CTU to get rid of Pedro Martinez. Was there collaboration with the CTU on your part to make this happen so that you could fire Pedro Martinez?
So every single mayor in the history of Chicago has had the authority to appoint board members to multiple boards. Guess who
But all 11? All 11?
still has that authority? This mayor does. Thank you.
Reminder that we're only doing one question, one follow-up.
I'm wondering if any of the board members can answer this question.
Bitches
Actually,
and
if all of
Mason,
you
too.
can, just maybe even just a show of your hands. How many of you support taking out a
No,
short-term,
we're not doing that. We're not
high-interest
doing that.
loan
We're not
to
doing
pay
that.
for a teacher's contract?
If you have a question for the mayor of Chicago, you can ask me a question.
But they're
what
not
you
for
are
you.
not going to do is litigate what the board has the authority to do once they're appointed.
What she's wanting to know is how they're going to spend that $300 million when the city itself is broke, and two, their system is broke.
You can ask that once they are appointed. No, I'm not going to do it. It's disrespectful. Do
No,
you
it's
have
not.
a question for me?
Okay, I'm sorry that you brought them up here, and it is a
Do you have a
precedent
question
ability,
for me? Ask me the question.
so- Okay.
Ask me if I support. I'm gonna help you out.
Right. Listen to his response, and then listen to how the fucking reporter responds to him.
Ask me the question if I believe that we should invest in our children and make sure we don't lay off brown and black women. Yes. Yes. I'm not.
You know more people get laid off than brown and black women, right? When the school shut down, that's everyone.
going to tolerate cuts. That's what the issue has been in this city. You know what a better question would be? What are you willing to do with your power to ensure that a school district that stuffed black children in Willis wagons, what you should be asking me is, what are you willing to do where you had a district that have laid off black women? You should be asking me, what am I prepared and willing to do to ensure that our children get the education that they deserve? Anything necessary.
To break the law.
I'm going to ask my own questions. Thank you. The next question, I know that you've mentioned several times that
You
you
didn't like
support.
that.
Thank you. The next question, I know that you've mentioned several times that you support an elected school board. You fought very hard for it, went
Yes.
down to Springfield. Many are calling what this is right now hypocritical, that you could have just let the process play out and let the election happen in November and then allow the 21 members to take office in January.
I use my authority that the people of Chicago gave me, which is to hurry up and make sure that our children get what they deserve. So here's the problem with that. Some of the same individuals who claim to support an elected representative school board only got the gospel once I became mayor of Chicago. These are the same individuals in Springfield that did not fight for adequate funding. That when massive school closings were taking place, none of them stood up in that moment to say, you know what, maybe the authority of the mayors.
Dude, it's a $300 million high interest loan. $300 million high interest loan. You're hurting the city. You're not helping the kids. You're only hurting the city.
It's too much. Now you actually have a mayor who recognizes democracy, have given the people exactly what they asked for and what they voted for. And now
You know what? He sounds like a gracious king in the way he's up there talking. Doesn't he? I gave you what you were asking for. What more do you want from me?
All of a sudden, they want to rehash the policies of Bruce Rauner, who called for state control and takeover. So we're not going down that route. We're going to invest in our children. As a parent, as a public school teacher, I'm going to do right by the people of Chicago. The people of Chicago voted for a parent.
Teacher?
They got one of their own.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Mayor, you said repeatedly that you don't comment on personnel issues, but over the past month, we've seen a majority of city council, we're seeing state lawmakers. We saw Pedro Martinez weigh in publicly about this dispute. Could you explain once and for all why you still don't think it's appropriate to talk about why you're dissatisfied with Pedro Martinez's performance?
Here's what I'm always willing to talk about. Making sure that every single school has a social worker and a counselor and a nurse. Making sure that every single school has a library and a librarian. Making sure that our schools have real college to careers as well as opportunities for the trades, for arts. Imagine a school district that allows for the whole child to develop, where every aspect of their being gets to come to life. That's the picture that I'm painting in this moment, because as a public school teacher...
Does that include taking responsibility for one's actions? Do they teach that in school? Do they teach, I don't know, a little bit of discipline? Do they teach them how to read?
When students show up in the building, they don't ask who the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools is. When children show up hungry and unhoused, they don't ask who the board members are. You know what they ask for? Will you make sure you build affordable homes in the city, which we're doing? Will you invest in restoring...
The kids are asking about affordable homes in the city? Hold on. I misheard that, guys.
Don't ask who the board members... When children show up hungry and unhoused, they don't ask who the board members are.
Children.
You know what they ask for?
What?
Will you make sure you build affordable homes in the city, which we're doing?
I doubt a school kid's going to ask them that. All right, continue.
Will you invest in restoring an equitable, just system?
Are you going to worry about the inequitability in the system? I don't think they're going to ask that.
System that allows for real creativity to be expressed. And so, as I've said before, people who decide to make it personal about one individual and carry out private conversations publicly, just put it to you this way. I was raised better than that.
I doubt it.
What specifically did he do or not do that, runs up against that vision?
There you go.
This transition that I am shepherding right now is about ensuring that every single child in this city gets exactly what they deserve. I need people to stay focused. Look, I get the politics here. Stay focused for a minute. Do you know what it's like as a parent?
I do.
When your child can play an instrument like the violin,
right?
Come on now.
But can't go to a neighborhood school because that school doesn't offer orchestra.
Okay.
You know what that's like? I know what that's like.
No, you don't.
That's why my son, we have to travel to the South Side because he just happens to be good at string instruments, and he plays soccer, and he's in honors AP government. I don't know why anybody recommended him for AP government.
That means he's stupid.
I have some suspicion. But we don't have enough schools on the West Side that offer a full range of curriculum. We don't. We don't have enough schools that create a pathway to the trades. Do you know, there is another public educator that I'm working with really closely, and that's Juan Salgado. Do you know we have a 48% increase since I've been in office of people enrolled in community colleges? And you know the number one subgroup of individuals who are enrolling in colleges, community colleges? Black men. It's the highest group because I've given clear directives. Grab our brothers by the hand. Yes, sir. Take them to where they need to go and support.
So I Googled, do Brandon Johnson's kids attend public schools? And it's about Brandon Johnson and public schools. But you'd think if his kids attended public schools, that would be all over the media. Doesn't have to say where. They just know it's a public school. I don't find any proof of that.
Support them along the way and until they reach their full potential. That's all this is about, ensuring that our children receive their full potential. Go ahead. Thank you.
I made my
Nice to meet
children
you, Johnson.
Hi, what's your name?
work
Nell
for that
Salzman with the Tribune.
to get that full potential.
Hey, Nell.
Thank you so much for answering questions. So I'm wondering if City Council should get to have a hearing before these appointees are installed.
The City Council can have as many hearings as they want.
Okay.
There's only one person who has the authority by state law to make appointments, and that's the mayor of Chicago, and that's me.
That needs to be fixed.
Hi, Mayor Johnson. Elizabeth Campbell with Bloomberg News. So you say you're not going to tolerate cuts. So what are you going to ask the new board to do to ensure that you don't have to do cuts, given the $500 million deficit next year and the following year? Are you going to ask them to take out that short-term loan? Are you going to ask them to address the CEO's employment? Can you just provide some
Answer the question.
Well, their job, the board's job, like all board members, no matter what kind of board you sit on, is to evaluate the executive. That's their job, their duty. They will do that. As far as what we do to ensure that our children have social workers, nurses, counselors,
what about
sports
educators
and extracurricular activities?
What about education?
We have to look at everything. But one thing that I can tell you for sure,
You keep
though,
saying everything that we need this money for, but education?
we have partners in Springfield that believe that we need to invest more in our public schools throughout the state of Illinois. And you know how I know they believed it? Because they agreed to a law that I helped pass. It's called, hold on, slow down, stay with me. I've been here long enough anyways, you might as well just wait a few more minutes. So this evidence-based funding model that allows for equity, the state's calculation is $3.6 billion, of which $1.1 billion is dedicated for the people of Chicago. So this board,
so you get the most,
and the people of Chicago, my administration, will continue to advocate in Springfield for more resources. As far as what we are prepared and willing to do to ensure that every single child gets what they deserve, everything is on the table. And let me just say this last point. I got you.
Bro, they get 6.1 billion, 1.6 billion for Chicago alone for education. Bro, might as well start calling yourself Ukraine.
Back in the 2000s, was a board chair, president, by the name of David Vitale. He took out what were essentially toxic swaps, these high interest schemes of loans, of which cost the taxpayers millions of dollars.
So it's okay?
Before that, there was another individual who was responsible for the finances. His name was Paul Vallis. And he instructed the mayor to take dollars out of retirement security, primarily for women, to give to developers and corporations. So you had David Vitale, who took out interest swap rates that cost the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. You had Paul Vallis, who took dollars that were dedicated for our public school system, particularly our workers, took those dollars, gave it to developers.
Brandon Johnson. City of Chicago. Hypothetical question. He's talking about all these people wasting millions of dollars on schemes. How much has Chicago spent alone, just alone, on housing illegals? Feeding illegals? I mean, it's just a question. Especially when you got all the homeless there, too.
Caused the taxpayers to have mounds and mounds of debt, and then the brother who was in high school when they did that is now responsible to fix it. All I'm simply trying to say to you and explain to the people of Chicago that the so-called experts ran this city and this school district in the ground. And so hold on, because I know you respect me. I do, because you're listening to me. I appreciate that. I wish more people would actually do that. The financial schemes that the so-called experts engaged in caused the crisis that we're in right now. And so simply put, what this board is prepared and willing to do is to do whatever is necessary to fix the structural damage that others created, while also building a pathway forward so that our children can participate in the $20 billion of new...
All right, I'm tired of listening to him. I'm going to close with this. Chicago officials move 250 migrants into vacant Wadsworth School in Woodline. You have the money to house them there. Why don't you have the money to open it? Okay. Let's continue. One more thing. One last article once I find it. And this is how they're going to get their... They're saying, oh, we get better test scores. Chicago public school teachers allegedly told to pass migrant students regardless of grades. So they're being told to pass them. Now we know why that $300 million is actually going to be a waste. And Roots, you showed up at the last possible minute. Anyway, that's Chicago's Brandon Mayer for you, and how, one, he doesn't believe in democracy because he wants to just appoint his buddies to the school board without them being vetted. Imagine that. What kind of criminal can he be putting in those positions? He's picking them. They're not being vetted, and they're not being voted into the position. I'm just saying. Now, with that being said, I'm not telling you how to think. I'm just telling you to think. And, yeah, that's a little thoughts for the night.